Hey everyone, this is Shpan, and this is the first episode in my new Daggerfall bite-sized build series, where I take a class from the original game but remake it to be better and more fun, but still in the spirit of the original in a concise and focused format. But before we get started, I have a bit of a special announcement today. I want to mention real quick that my channel membership is officially live, and if you're interested in joining, I'll have a link in the video description below. I wouldn't be here without all the amazing support I've been getting over the past few months, so I have to take this moment to give a huge thank you to everyone that supported me and tuned into my videos. I've got more Let's Play episodes, mod showcases, and game design rants and discussion videos all in the works, so I'm feeling really inspired and motivated to share this next month of video ideas that I have with all of you guys. With all that out of the way, in today's episode, we'll be taking a look at the Nightblade class. The goal of all my builds is first and foremost to be fun with a focus on capturing the specific fantasy of the class, but these builds will also be pretty powerful. Let's get into it. First, let's give an example of the gameplay you can expect with my take on the Nightblade class. To me, the Nightblade class fantasy should be a mix of stealth and magic, a class with illusion and alteration spells to support their stealth effectiveness before surprising the enemy with a lethal backstab. So we're in this dungeon here with the invisibility buff on ourselves, and we're in sneak mode and crouch as we close in undetected by this enemy. Once we're in melee range, we can attempt a paralyzed touch spell, but it's resisted. The enemy can't see us yet and is swinging wildly. And we get the paralyze on our next attempt here, which gives us free access to the back of the enemy for backstab attempts, and with 2 backstabs, she's dead. The core of the build is buffing ourselves with invisibility, going into stealth mode, casting a paralyzed touch spell when we get up close, and once they're paralyzed, we go for easy backstabs for a quick kill. The build is most effective when we can isolate targets. All of this while also having access to many utility spells from the Alteration Magic School like Water Breathing and Slow Fall. And now let's get into the details of the build. First thing we need is a weapon skill in the primary slot. You can honestly choose any weapon you like, but for me, I think Short Blade fits the best for this class, so I'll be picking that. We'll grab Stealth and Illusion Magic for our next 2 primary slots, as they're really the core of the build, and we want our Stealth skill to start as high as possible because it can be a little bit slow to level up and you need a lot of it to be effective. In the major skill slot, we'll start with Backstab. It fits perfectly for the class, and with both a high stealth skill and access to powerful illusion magic effects like invisibility and shadow form, we'll be able to approach enemies without being seen and open up with a free backstab or paralyze. I really recommend Alteration as a second magic school for the Nightblade. It complements illusion well by giving you access to a few more buffs and utility spells, but it also allows you to pick up paralyze effects, which I really like on the Nightblade, and I think it fits the class perfectly. After that, you have some other options. You could grab Mysticism if you really want access to teleport, but I personally don't feel it fits the class that much, so I'll be skipping on that. If you're a new player and worried about poisons or diseases, you could also grab Restoration Magic, but again, I'll be skipping on that, and instead I'll grab Critical Strike to help our melee effectiveness. Dodging is another good choice here if you want a more defensive option than Critical Strike. Now let's move on to our minor skills. Minor skills aren't too important. Just make sure you grab either Critical Strike or Dodging, whichever one you didn't place in a major skill slot. Again, if you want to play a little bit safe, you can grab either Mysticism for Teleport or Restoration so you can easily cure those annoying poisons and diseases. Now let's check out the advantages and disadvantages for this build. You have a lot of different viable options here in the advantages section, so I'll just be recommending some of the more important ones to grab, but absolutely feel free to choose more or less depending on how you want your character to function. For the first advantage, we'll need to grab 3 times int in spell points. This is almost a hard requirement for any character that wants to cast spells in Daggerfall without losing their entire mana bar for a single cast. It's a bit of a shame because once you get a high skill in magic schools, you don't really need that 3 times int, but for the majority of your playthrough, most spells will be way too expensive without it. After that, we'll grab expertise in short blade to help with our melee effectiveness. The build doesn't rely on magic to actually kill enemies, so we need to make sure our melee strikes hit. After that, you're free to choose whatever you like. I grabbed Acute Hearing to help me know when an enemy is close, so then I can go into stealth and start crouching, rather than running around the entire dungeon at a slow speed. Immunity to Paralysis is a good option for newer players that don't want to worry about that effect, If you chose High Elf for your race, then you're already immune to paralysis, and if you chose Restoration earlier for one of your skill slots, then you can easily dispel it, so don't worry about that. But otherwise, it might be a good idea to pick it up. Moving on to the disadvantages, I really like the idea of a Nightblade that can only cast their spells in the dark. It fits so well into the class fantasy, and it'll lower that XP penalty bar a decent amount, which is always a nice bonus. Regardless of the time in game, dungeons always count as dark areas, so you'll be able to cast perfectly normal in any dungeon. You could choose to only weaken your ability to cast during the day rather than completely restrict it, and I would only choose that if you decided to grab Mysticism earlier for the teleport spell. Otherwise, you shouldn't need to cast spells outside of dungeons during the daytime too often. This build can definitely rely on its melee power during the daytime if you run into enemies while traveling or when visiting outdoor areas. This restriction presents a lot of fun role playing potential as well. You'll feel like a god at night and in dungeons, but vulnerable outdoors during the day, and so you'll need to be resourceful then. I really recommend trying it out. Try to balance your disadvantages and advantages so that you can grab at least 20 or more HP gain per level, while at least keeping your leveling rate at normal or below. You don't need to get a very low XP rate if you don't want to take on heavier disadvantages. You'll just simply level a bit slower, which can actually sometimes be a good thing. Once you're happy with all of that, we'll move on to the 12 questions section. We're going to rapid fire through these, so let's do it. We want stealth as high as possible so we can rely on it before we have access to stronger illusion spells. Grab illusion here. Choose whichever weapon you chose for your primary skill slot. I chose short blade, so I'll grab that. Grab quicksilver for running skill. This next one doesn't really matter. Grab alteration here. Then trespassing for more stealth skill. This next one doesn't matter either. Choosing knowledge here gives us a book which sells for a lot, so we can grab that. Then choose any god you like. We'll grab a book again to sell later. And then we'll choose staying awake on the last one here. And that's my take on the Nightblade class. If you decide to give this build a try, let me know how it goes. I played around with it a decent amount, and I recommend being patient with stealth. Try to approach corners and hallways in both stealth mode and while crouching to maximize your stealth skill effectiveness. And even early on, I was having decent success sneaking up on enemies without them noticing me and opening the fight with a free backstab, which was also sometimes enough to just one-shot certain enemies like rats. The build will get a lot stronger in the mid to later stages of the playthrough, and eventually you'll be moving through dungeons unheard by monsters and one-shotting many of them with a single backstab or paralyzing them before they even know you're there. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and let me know in the comments which Daggerfall class I should make a build for next. Thanks for watching, and take care.